Welcome everyone to the Vitality Equation, exploring research in health and well-being one paper at a time. Today we're diving into a fascinating study about cancer, but with some really interesting implications for overall health, I think. It's titled Fibroblasts Drive Differential Response in Immunotherapy via IL-6 in Bioengineered 3D Cancer Constructs.
That sounds dense. Bioengineered 3D cancer constructs? My brain is already working overtime.
Mine too, a little. But anything with immunotherapy catches my ear these days. It's such a promising field. So what are we unpacking here?
Okay, so in simple terms, researchers created a 3D model of cancer in the lab to study how it responds to immunotherapy. Immunotherapy, as you know, is basically using your own immune system to fight cancer. The cool part is they found that these cells called fibroblasts, which are usually just kind of support cells in tissues, play a big role in whether the immunotherapy works or not.
Fibroblasts? Right, the structural guys. So they're not just passive bystanders then? How do they mess with the immunotherapy?
Exactly. It turns out these fibroblasts can release a protein called IL-6, and IL-6 can actually dampen down the immune response, making the cancer cells less susceptible to being killed by the immunotherapy.
Okay, so the cancer is like hiding behind the fibroblasts, and the IL-6 is like a shield. That makes sense. So how is this bioengineered 3D construct different than just studying cancer cells in a petri dish?
That's a great question. Cancer in a dish is very two-dimensional, right? But in the body, cancer exists in a 3D environment, interacting with other cells and the surrounding matrix. This 3D model allows them to better mimic the complexity of a real tumor, including the interaction with fibroblasts and other components of the tumor microenvironment. It's a more realistic representation.
So it's like building a little miniature cancer city in the lab instead of just looking at individual cancer cells in isolation. Makes sense from a research perspective. But how does this lab-grown cancer city translate to actual human beings and their health?
That's the key question. The big implication here is that if we can figure out how to block the IL-6 being produced by these fibroblasts, or somehow counteract its effects, we might be able to make immunotherapy more effective. Imagine making tumors more vulnerable to the body's own defenses.
That's huge. So finding a drug that targets IL-6 could be a game changer for immunotherapy. Are there already drugs that do that?
Yes, there are. There are already IL-6 inhibitors used for other conditions like rheumatoid arthritis. The exciting thing is, researchers are now exploring whether these drugs could also be beneficial in combination with immunotherapy for certain cancers. It is a bit of a jump, but it might actually be possible.
Okay, so repurposing existing drugs. Always a good strategy. It speeds things up, right? Less testing, potentially faster approvals. I'm wondering if there's a cognitive angle to this, even indirectly. If stress, for example, is known to influence the immune system, could managing stress levels potentially impact the effectiveness of immunotherapy by modulating IL-6 or other inflammatory markers?
That's a fascinating point. We know that chronic stress can definitely impact the immune system and inflammation. It's conceivable that high stress levels could exacerbate the IL-6 production by fibroblasts, further hindering the immunotherapy response. So stress management techniques like meditation or mindfulness could potentially play a supportive role in cancer treatment.
Absolutely. And it's not just stress. Sleep is also crucial for immune function. If someone undergoing immunotherapy is consistently sleep deprived, their immune system won't be functioning optimally. Maybe improving sleep quality could indirectly help the immunotherapy work better by allowing the immune system to be more responsive.
Right, so addressing the cognitive and behavioral aspects, stress, sleep, even diet, could be an important adjunct to the medical treatment. It's about creating the optimal internal environment for the immunotherapy to work. That brings up a thought. How much does a patient's belief in the treatment affect outcomes, placebo effect and all that? If someone is optimistic and actively engaged in their treatment, does that translate to a better immune response?
That's a powerful question. The placebo effect is definitely a real phenomenon, and it highlights the mind-body connection. While the exact mechanisms are still being studied, it's likely that positive expectations and beliefs can influence the immune system and other physiological processes. It's not a replacement for treatment, but belief in a treatment can be a powerful factor in any health outcome. It can really help. Do you think it could even affect cancer treatment?
I'm thinking about the exercise angle here. We know exercise can boost the immune system. Could tailored exercise programs, designed to minimize inflammation and optimize immune function, be used to enhance the effectiveness of immunotherapy? It is worth exploring anyway.
That makes perfect sense. And it ties back to what we were saying earlier about creating the optimal internal environment. Exercise, proper sleep, stress management, they all work synergistically to support the immune system and potentially make the cancer cells more vulnerable to the immunotherapy.
Yes, and thinking about exercise, there's the cognitive piece as well. Exercise isn't just physical, it affects mood, reduces anxiety, and can improve cognitive function. All of those things could indirectly impact the body's ability to fight the cancer. Positive thinking is the best for immune responses.
And it's all interconnected, isn't it? It reminds me of how meticulously I approach creating the perfect conditions in my lab for growing cells. You control the temperature, the nutrients, you're essentially creating a microenvironment optimized for growth. And maybe we need to think about our own bodies in a similar way. We can create an internal environment that is more conducive to healing and well-being. It's like building a bespoke health system from the ground up.
That's a brilliant analogy. It's about designing our lifestyle, our habits, our routines to support our body's natural healing processes. Thinking about this bioengineered cancer model, it's like we're bioengineering our own health, bit by making conscious choices about how we live.
Yeah, almost like cognitive restructuring for your whole life. Identifying the negative thought patterns, or in this case, unhealthy habits, and replacing them with more positive and supportive ones. It reminds me of a patient I worked with who was undergoing treatment for a chronic illness. He was incredibly anxious and focused on the worst-case scenarios. We worked together to reframe his thinking, to focus on what he could control, and to cultivate a sense of hope. His overall well-being improved dramatically, and while I can't say for sure it directly impacted his physical health, it certainly didn't hurt.
Absolutely. It's not about ignoring the reality of the situation, but about choosing where to focus your attention. As someone who practices meditation daily, I know that directing your focus is the most powerful thing you can do.
I am wondering how we can use this research to create better recovery programs. In thinking about athletes, how can we use this information to improve programs so that athletes don't get injured? It is the right thing to think about.
I agree. This whole idea of the fibroblast shield and the IL-6 protein makes me wonder if there's a way to tap into that at a cellular level. How can meditation techniques be incorporated into the design of a culture system to optimize growth conditions for the muscle tissues? What kind of microenvironments for meditation could be replicated and measured in relation to the growth of the tissue? It's all about controlling your environment, both internally and externally.
That's interesting. Thinking about the cognitive side, could we use biofeedback techniques to help people consciously regulate their IL-6 levels or other inflammatory markers? Or, at least, teach them to manage their stress response in a way that minimizes the negative impact on their immune system?
That's a cool idea, combining the mind-body connection with measurable biological markers. On my end, I'm thinking about personalized exercise plans. Could we design exercise routines that are specifically tailored to minimize IL-6 production or promote a more balanced inflammatory response? It goes beyond just exercise is good for you. It's about understanding the specific effects of different types of exercise on a cellular level.
Exactly. It's about precision. It's about understanding the nuances of how our lifestyle choices impact our biology. This research, while focused on cancer, highlights the importance of creating an environment that supports our body's natural defenses. That's a core tenet of lifestyle habits and mindfulness.
Precision, it's also about recognizing that everyone is different. What works for one person might not work for another. That's why personalized medicine and personalized mental health care are so important. Tailoring the interventions to the individual's specific needs and circumstances.
Absolutely. And that's where research like this comes in. The more we understand the underlying mechanisms, the better equipped we are to design those personalized interventions. It's about moving beyond general recommendations and into a world of targeted, effective strategies.
Well, this has been a fascinating discussion. I think it really highlights the interconnectedness of our physical and mental well-being. Cancer research may seem far removed from our daily lives, but it can offer valuable insights into how we can optimize our overall health.
Definitely. And it underscores the importance of taking a holistic approach to health. It's not just about treating the disease, but about supporting the whole person, mind, body, and spirit.
Agreed. It's about creating a life that nourishes us on all levels and empowers us to thrive. That's the vitality equation right there.
Exactly. Now, if we were to think about future research directions based on this paper, where would you each go?
From a cognitive perspective, I'd be interested in exploring the effectiveness of CBT interventions in reducing IL-6 levels in cancer patients undergoing immunotherapy. A controlled trial comparing CBT to standard care, with IL-6 levels as a key outcome measure, could provide valuable insights into the mind-body connection in cancer treatment. Also, how cognitive flexibility influences treatment outcomes.
I'd love to see research on the effects of different exercise modalities on IL-6 production in cancer patients. For example, comparing the effects of high-intensity interval training versus moderate-intensity continuous training on IL-6 levels and immunotherapy response. And of course, incorporating sleep studies into the mix. Can we optimize sleep to improve immune response?
For me, I'd want to investigate how mindfulness-based interventions can directly influence the tumor microenvironment. Can we develop specific meditation techniques that downregulate IL-6 production or promote a more anti-tumor immune response? I'd also be curious to explore the epigenetic effects of these interventions, how they might influence gene expression and cellular function.
Ooh, epigenetics. That's a whole other fascinating layer of complexity.
Definitely. There's so much more to explore. I'm eager to see what future research uncovers. It's a really important area to keep moving forward.
Well, thank you both for this enlightening conversation. And thank you to our listeners for joining us on the Vitality Equation. We hope this has sparked some new ideas and inspired you to take an active role in your own health and well-being.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
My pleasure. Until next time.